Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Madisonville Marine. As the weather gets nicer, you're going to want to spend time on an area lake or river. Madisonville Marine has the best selection and best prices on boats anywhere from Nashville to Georgia. But boat production is behind this year. So if you want a boat for this summer, for this spring, you need to get in line right now. You need to contact all the guys at Madisonville Marine. Check in with them, madmarine.com, or get down to Highway 411 North in Madisonville to make sure you've got a boat for this spring and summer. All right. Since 2006, and we're going to put this up, since 2006, we've been providing our red flag ratings of teams that Tennessee does or doesn't want to match up well with, or does or doesn't want to see in the NCAA tournament because of the matchups. Now, look, I know every year I get a ton of emails saying, oh, this is my favorite show of the year. And I get a ton of emails saying, I hate this show, stop with the math. So it's only 2 segments. Half of you are going to love this, half of you are going to hate it. Deal with it. Let me step through what this means, all right? First, we look at all Tennessee's games for that year, and we check all of the foes against Ken Pomeroy's stats, 22 stats. So this is spreadsheet after spreadsheet, hours of my time. Number 2, that allows us to learn the DNA, if you will, the style of play of teams that beat UT. So what types of teams give Tennessee trouble? We then apply those stats, that DNA that matter most, to the teams that UT is most likely to face in the first and second rounds. In other words, this year, if Tennessee could be a 4 to a 7 seed, I had to go and look at 13s, 12s, 11s, 10s, all the potential teams that could wind up in that seed line, and to do the same thing in the second round. So we're talking about 75, 80 teams that we look at. All right, of those 22 stats, we found about 8 this year that are toned in, and we'll show you those stats in a second. But if you see this stat, and if this team does X, Tennessee has a terrible record. If it does Y, Tennessee's got a great record. There are only 8 of the 22 that had a clear-cut number like that. All right, number 4, this is not a pure predictor. Don't take it to Las Vegas. A team could come out hot, team can come out cold. We know that. Injuries, the Fulkerson situation. Also a question this year, you played fewer games. So I don't know how this system is going to work when you've had fewer games to play due to COVID. All that said, this simply shows which team's playing styles, or DNA, are more likely to give Tennessee trouble. Now, why do we believe in it? Well, here are the past surprising told-you-sos. 2006, I love this, 10th seed. Tennessee was a 2 seed. If they win, they play. If they beat American, they play 10 seed Wichita State. Somebody called in to a radio show where Tony Jones, the assistant coach, was on there and said, Pennington says this is a bad matchup. Tony said, no, it's a great matchup. He's wrong. No, they lost to 10th seed Wichita State. 2007, we said on Selection Sunday, pray that you get Long Beach State as the 12 seed. That would be the dream matchup because they ran up and down the court and they turned the ball over. Tennessee scored 121 points. It was the highest scoring first-round game in NCAA history. In 2009, we told you that 8 seed Oklahoma State was the worst possible 8 seed Tennessee could draw. Tennessee lost. 2010, I said on the show, this is the tightest game I've ever seen in this system. It was Tennessee, Michigan State. Michigan State won by 1 at the end to go to the Final Four. And in 2019, we told you that 3 seed Purdue was going to be a bad matchup, and it turns out that's who Tennessee got in the tournament and lost. They were upset in the Sweet 16. All right, so this year's tells. Let's put this up. Folks, you don't have to read this, okay? If I don't put it up, people are going to think, you just made up that thing. They ain't really 8 deals. There it is. If you want to be king nerd, take a freeze of it. What you're talking about there is like adjusted efficiency margin. When a team is over 14.1, Tennessee is just 7-8 on the year. When a team is under 14.0, Tennessee's 11-0. That's the kind of difference that stands out where we go, oh, okay, look, there's a clear defining number. It's not 50-50 in both sides. There is a clear difference in the types of teams. Again, you don't have to memorize that, but that's the list. Those are the 8 that we then applied to 75/80 teams that we're going to show you next. When we come back, we'll get back to talking about basketball, but we're going to show you the red flags. Which of the teams, when you're watching the selection show, that you can say, that's not a great style for Tennessee, or on paper, that's a good matchup for Tennessee. We'll show you that next on the Sports Source. Come on back.